See, that was under.
Good. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started with the pre-meeting. Get any questions answered. There were a couple of changes to the agenda. First on the list, approval of minutes, May 9th, 2022, 5 p.m. work session, May 16th, 2022, 9:30 a.m. work session, May 16th, 2022, 10 a.m. council meeting. Any questions? All right, next set public hearings, resolution number 22-120, authorize abatement of unsafe conditions at 1308 15th Avenue Southeast, set public hearing for July 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. David.
If it pleases the council, there's some stuff has come to light last week that some improvements may be taking place, so we'll just ask that we remove it for time being and see where that lands us. If need be, we'll bring it back to y'all.
I'm good with that. Yep. We'll just remove it and we'll, okay. Yep. Thanks, David. All right, appeals, resolution 22-121, approve Historic Preservation Commission's decision to reject courtyard construction at 411 Walnut Street Northeast. There. No changes. Okay. Any questions? All right, public hearings, ordinance number 22-4513, approve rezoning request 139222 by Erica Powell for 0.19 acres more or less to be rezoned from B1 local shopping district to B2 general business district located at 511 19th Avenue Southeast. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022. Okay. Any questions? Ordinance 22-4514, approve rezoning request 139322 for Aspen Properties to rezone approximately 2 acres from an R2 single-family residential district to an R6 single-family semi-attached residential district and is located at 331 Austinville Road Southwest. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022. No changes. All right, any questions? Ordinance 22-4515, approve rezoning request 139422 for Windchase Townhomes to rezone approximately 0.46 acres more or less from an R6 single-family semi-attached residential district to an R5 single-family patio home, 0 lot line residential district and is located north of 2847 Hempstead Avenue Southwest. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022. All right, any questions? Ordinance 22-4516, approve rezoning request 139522 for Jason Parker's property containing 3.04 acres more or less from a B1 local shopping district and R1 single-family residential district to a B2 general business district and is located at 3112 Highway 31 South. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022. No changes. Any questions? Resolutions, resolution number 22-123, approve the Blue Cross Blue Shield Fitness Court. No changes. Any questions? All right, resolution 22-124, approve the Princess Theater ADA improvements, approve change number 1, number 2, and number 3. No changes. No changes. Any questions? All right, resolution 22-125, approve 2021-2022 CAPER Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
No changes unless the council has questions.
Any questions? Resolution 22-126, approve vendor price increase for new Engine 8 fire truck.
No changes.
Okay, any questions? Today's the deadline. All right, resolution 22-132, authorize expenditures of $10,883,767 from American Rescue Plan state and fiscal recovery funds.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 22-127, approve Pewright McAnally Modus Road Improvements Proposal Lexington Avenue to Austin High School.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 22-128, approve amendment to CDG Engineering Deerfoot Estates drainage design.
No changes.
Any questions? Resolution 22-129, award bid number 22019 for Ready Mix Concrete to Ready Mix USA, being the sole respondent.
No changes.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22-130, award bid number 22024 for cell A and cell 16 subgrade preparation to T&K Construction in the amount of $2,030,213.80.
No change.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22-131, award bid number 22025 for sand and fine aggregates to Alliance Sand, being the sole respondent.
No change.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22-133, approve Algo video sharing agreement.
There's no change from last week.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22-134, approve purchase of a Kubota tractor for Parks and Recreation.
No change.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22-135, approve the mayor to accept an agreement with Virtual Rail Fan for the installation and streaming of webcams at the train depot.
No change. That's what Jason wanted to say.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do we, the cost on that, is there a cost to the city?
CDB is actually.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha. All right, any other questions? Resolution 22-136, approve the replacement of the primary and air handler unit at City Hall.
No change.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22-137, approve the purchase of temporary fencing for Parks and Recreation. Any questions? Declare sole source supplier for the purchase of police vehicles.
No changes.
Okay, any questions? All right, resolution 22-139, approve reinstating old engine number 5 to an active status from a surplus status. All right, any questions? Resolution 22-140, accept the Community Foundation of Greater Decatur $180,000 donation for equipment and improvements for an outdoor education area at Chestnut Grove Elementary School.
This is the first time it's on here, but it's Chestnut Grove, like you just said, and city will match some of it, but its purpose is to have a nice outdoor recreation and education area.
Okay, and that is coming from
That's
Representative Collins.
Yeah.
All right. Ordinances first reading. Ordinance number 22-4519, approve amendment to the Code of Decatur, Alabama, Article 11, Chapter 7, Property Maintenance Code.
No change.
Any questions? Ordinance 22-4520, approve amendment to the Code of Decatur, Alabama, Article 1, Chapter 14, Section 14-4, Paperless Filing and Payment System.
No changes.
Any questions? All right, boards and committees, no vote on the first one. It's a mayoral appointment, but it's the mayoral appointment of Jerry Baker to the Housing Authority Board, term expiring August 5th, 2023. Any questions, statements? Okay. Reappoint Brian Cook to second term on DDRA Board, term expiring June 21st, 2028. This is second term. All right, any questions? Oh, yeah. I do have one thing for the council. If we can get any, I know there's been a lot of applications for the Parks and Rec Board. If you have anybody in your district that you want to fill one out and they haven't, if we can try to get those in by Friday of this week, I think that way we can move forward with appointing people to the board for the following agenda. So try to have those in this week. All right, we'll get started at 6. Thanks.
I think my list will be shorter.
It's lasted this long.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Pastor Ivy Marsh with Becoming Church will lead us in our invocation and pledge.
Let's pray. God, thank you so much for today. Jesus, we love you and we submit ourselves to you. God, I thank you for this council. God, I ask you to give them wisdom in everything that they have to cover that goes beyond their experience and their years. Father, we thank you for this great city and we ask your protection over it. That God, the things that are going on in other cities and other parts of the world, we just bind that and ask you to protect our city from it and let our city be a place of love and unity in all aspects of life. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ivy. Roll call. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. All right, first on the agenda, approval of minutes. Is everybody okay with taking these all at once? All right, I've got May 9th, 2022, 5 p.m. work session, May 16th, 2022, 9:30 a.m. work session, May 16th, 2022, 10 a.m. council meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The minutes are approved with a vote of 4-0. Next item has been removed from the agenda after advice from Mr. Lee. Next we have appeals. Resolution number 22-121. Approve Historic Preservation Commission's decision to reject courtyard construction at 411 Walnut Street Northeast. And I believe Ruth is going to open the...
Council, I'm going to give you a little bit of history of this particular case, and then a little primer on kind of where we've come from and what the HPC is here for, because we don't get many appeals. There was one earlier in this year, but this one I'm just going to kind of go through and tell you a little bit of the history so you kind of know where we're coming from and what we're asking from City Council. The Historic Preservation Commission is comprised of 7 members. As you know, they're all nominated by the mayor and appointed by City Council. The nomination and appointment of members of the commission are made so to ensure the commission will be composed of people with training or special interest in various fields. Some of those are history, architecture, architectural history, urban planning, and historic preservation, to the extent that we have such professionals. Each of the members of the board have to take 8 hours of training every year in various areas of historic preservation. So they are trained, some of them even specially trained in their own vocations to be on this board. The commission is tasked with approving or denying certificates of appropriateness in order to maintain the integrity of our historic districts here in Decatur. The homeowners who purchase properties in the historic district are reliant upon the HPC to ensure that the value and integrity of these neighborhoods is maintained. Failure to follow the guidelines jeopardize the investment of other homeowners in their properties and can potentially create a loss of historic designation and a loss of property values. These members are appointed to uphold the ordinances, the standards and guidelines, and the commission's determinations are not made lightly or without careful consideration of all aspects and details of each case. One size does not fit all when it comes to the Historic Preservation Commission and how they apply the standards and guidelines. And to go against a holding of the commission is to undermine the authority granted to the commission by this council. A little bit of an overview: the historic district is actually a form of zoning, and the historic districts here in Decatur are given an R3H designation. This designation is subject to limitation and guidelines, just as each of the other zoning designations have. Homeowners purchase homes within the historic district overlay with the assurance that the neighborhood will remain historically compliant over a period of years and through potential changes in ownership of the houses that are located inside the district. Living in a historic district is a choice that each homeowner makes when they decide to purchase a home inside the district. Compliance of citizens with our city ordinances is an implicit part of living within the city limits of Decatur, and is needed to maintain order and continuity. Choosing to live inside one of the historic districts implies an understanding that the standards and guidelines for the same will be upheld and followed. We're here today before council on an appeal by the homeowner of 411 Walnut Street in response to a denial of a certificate of appropriateness by the Historic Preservation Commission. I'm going to, from this point forward, start calling certificates of appropriateness COAs. That's the acronym that's used, and HPC is the commission because it does get very long to say all of these over again. The homeowner is aware of and made a commitment to follow the guidelines of the HPC when the property was purchased. In purchasing a property inside the historic district, the homeowner relied on the rulings of the HPC to protect and retain the integrity and value of this particular piece of property that we're here about today. Prior to purchasing this property at 411 Walnut Street, this homeowner purchased another property in 1990, also located inside the historic district on Cherry Street. The property at issue today was purchased in 2018, and subsequent to this appeal, just approximately 20 to 30 days ago, on May 17th, the homeowner has purchased a third property, also located inside the historic district. The homeowner is familiar with living inside the district and continues to purchase properties inside the boundaries, knowing the value of the property is created and maintained by having these checks and balances, these regulations and guidelines, and the ordinance in place to maintain the integrity of this district. This particular property has been the subject of multiple COAs, and the council heard the appeal of a previously denied COA at your February 7th meeting. The facts surrounding that appeal show as follows. An amended COA was approved as a compromise by the commission for a low brick curb to be allowed after the prior curbing wall received damage from a fallen tree. The homeowner failed to follow the agreed upon COA negotiated between the homeowner and the COA, or the HPC, sorry, I misspoke. The homeowner not only failed to comply with the COA, the homeowner failed to request any input or approval from the HPC before violating the approved COA, and constructed a large brick wall well beyond the approved dimensions and design. The homeowner expended amounts of money for said unapproved construction, all in derogation of the agreement made between the homeowner and HPC. When complaints were made, a stop work order was issued by the HPC, and the homeowner was instructed that the work being done was directly in conflict with the amended COA that had been approved and agreed upon by the commission. The homeowner then filed another COA asking for the commission to approve the unapproved work that had already been done on behalf after the fact and in disregard for the compromise and agreement given to the homeowner. This COA was considered by the commission and was denied as being in violation of the Historic Design Review Guidelines adopted by the HPC as required by both federal and state law. The homeowner then appealed the denial of the COA to this council, and said appeal was heard on February 7th. This council tabled the appeal with the instruction to the homeowner to go back before the HPC to see if there was a compromise that could be reached. The homeowner then filed a COA that showed no significant changes to the previously denied COA and continued to do additional work on the property in violation of the stop work order that was never released. The commission reviewed the COA, discussed with the homeowner the fact that there should be no additional work occurring at the property, and that the COA that was submitted showed no substantial changes to any of the construction that was completed in violation of the long ago amended COA that allowed that small little curbing wall that was to be placed. The HPC denied the COA for violation of the same design review standards on which it was had based the prior denial. The HPC gave very clear guidance as to the work that would need to be done in order to bring this property back into compliance, which would result in the removal of all items that had been constructed by the homeowner in violation of the initially approved COA that was amended. The homeowner has since filed another COA, which has been substantially similar to the one brought before this council on appeal, the one filed in response to the council sending him back to compromise. In its May meeting, the HPC denied the COA and disallowed any new COAs to be submitted by the homeowner until and unless the homeowner removed portions of the wall constructed in violation of that long ago approved COA from 2021. The homeowner has filed an appeal and this matter is now back before the council. The homeowner essentially having made no concessions or alterations from the first appeal. Homeowner has not attempted to compromise the design or the construction of the wall built in violation of that long ago COA. And in fact, the homeowner has continued to work on the property in violation of the stop work orders and the direct instruction of this council. Any and all attempts at compromise have been thwarted and avoided by the homeowner since the February 7th council meeting. It's the position of the Historic Preservation Commission that their denial of the COA submitted by the homeowner be upheld by this council and the property be brought back into compliance with the city ordinance and HPC guidelines. And before you today, council, it's not to decide what should be there, it's to decide whether the HPC they issued their denial based upon the guidelines that they are to use and consider. I actually kind of want to give you just a little bit, I know I've taken a long time, but it is a very complex process that goes on, especially when you have work orders, stop work orders that are issued and the homeowner continues to work on the property. But under state statute, it's section 1168.9. This is what gives the city their guidelines for what we're supposed to do as an HPC. And I just made one copy of each of these. Y'all can look at them. It's what gives the HPC the authority to approve or deny the certificates of appropriateness. And it also tells them the guidelines that they have to use and they have to adopt. And the guidelines, I've attached a copy of those. Those are always made, they are present on the city website. Our historic preservation specialist always works with the homeowners to give them copies of the guidelines and discuss with them. This was not an arbitrary decision made by the HPC. These are trained board members. They have the knowledge and the ability to know if a guideline is being followed. If it's in violation of that, there was no arbitrary decisions made. This is clearly in violation of 2 different sections at least of the guidelines, and they have made that very known in their holdings. The homeowner is aware of what their holdings are, and yet the property is still out of compliance. So we would ask that you would affirm the holding of the Historic Preservation Commission. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. Now, Mr. Kennedy, if you'd like to come give your appeal.
I've seen these before, but you can flip back through them. I'm not going to go through it page by page. Hello. You're seeing here is a picture of my home. The lawyer, I guess, for the historical district, she made several references that are not true. I've not continued to work in this property. I've had a stop work order in effect for probably pretty much a year at different, I don't know what they're calling work. The dirt that was dumped is still in the piles. The yard is uneven. That's all I've been trying to accomplish, is to have an even, level front yard. The commission did approve me to have this section here, not the wall, this and this. This is in compliance as far as it's 12 inches. This is not because it's 16 inches. What I went ahead, when my brick masons were there, in order to get the front yard level, I did tell them to put this section in. And I should not, because I did not have approval for that, but I don't understand how you can hold back dirt if you don't have a wall there. It's not a courtyard, it is a retaining wall. So you have to have a wall there to retain the soil. I've tried to work with this board, and finally, I did go before them. The last time I went before them, they said there was no difference. When you offer to lower a brick wall, 8 brick, it's 19 inches. That's pretty significant. I brought it up to Miss Carolyn that, well, in the past, and there is 255 homes in Old Decatur, and 78 of them have some type, form, or fashion of brick retaining walls in the front, either all the way, all 3 areas, or just on each side. She said that was approved by earlier historical boards, before the board in the 1990 was formed. That's not the case. Many of them, one on Cherry Street was in the past 10 years. Then there's others that's as recent as the past 3 years. Several things in your statement were just untrue. So when they sent me this letter telling me it had been denied, I knew that, but other people have went before that board and they were given a year to bring whatever back into compliance. They gave me 2 weeks to tear out all these brick and bring the yard back into compliance. I've tried to work with the board. There's no way this yard's going to be in compliance because it's brick. They're of the opinion brick are not appropriate in the front facade of the home, but this is not a brick wall, it's a retaining wall, but it's not a brick wall. It's a 1 foot brick wall, but it is retaining. Then they told me that I could tear that out, come back and get approval if I put fencing on top of it. I don't really necessarily want fencing, but I may have to do that. I don't know, but could I just put fencing on top of this instead of incurring the expense of having to tear it all out and tear it down? Then they told me that I could tear out the front entryway. That was done by a previous homeowner, and all they did was frame it up and pour it on top of the ground. I could tear that out, but I could go back with a brick entryway. I just get all kinds of mixed messages from this historical board. They may be professionals. I don't know their criteria, but the deal when you buy a historical home, if you know it's in the historical district, great. Yes, my son just purchased one, as brought up. He was told nothing else about it being historical. I am not a member of the historical district as far as the membership. I own 2 homes in the historical district, and I by no means want to do anything that depreciates them or takes away from their value. And if you look at this, the next picture please. Every home on this street, this is Judge Brown's yard, has a left side retaining wall because of the incline. If you'll go to the next picture. This one here, the next home down, retaining wall. Every home on that side of the street has a left side retaining wall. You can go to the next picture, please. So I'm offered, I'll take this down. I can take it away and just have the brick surround retaining wall. That would allow me to have a level, even yard. I'm willing to do whatever to reach a compromise. The historical board, they just simply say it doesn't meet standards. They vote, and it's never gonna pass. So I'm kind of at an impasse and don't know what else to do.
When you brought a COA back to the HPC, did the plans have the removal of that tall wall?
Yes, the second one did, yes. The first one, I talked with my landscape architect, both of them, and they gave me as a solution to put a turnback right here, and that would marry the two, and it wouldn't appear as tall. But that's not, but they totally shot that down. Okay, so I came back and I said, I'll just take this down to where it's just 1 foot here, 1 foot above this. And that would be, on one side, it would be 26 inches. On the other side, it would be, at its tallest point would be 28 inches tall. Well, the standard is that you can have a wall as long as it's in the front facade of your home, as long as it's not over 36 inches tall. So I think that's a significant change. Peace offering, I don't know. But there again, they say that's not significant. I don't know how else to appease this historical board. So that's, you know, I tried to work with them, and now we're going on the 8th meeting. This has been going on well over a year. I'd just like some resolution. I went to the city board, Mr. Allen, you know, he said, you know, the city's just started kicking this can down the street, same old can. And he gave me he just told me it was a lost cause. When I brought up to Miss Caroline on the historical board that past boards have approved retaining walls, also the raised terrace yards, and she said that did not matter. It was what this board approved is what matters. Well, how is that a case? Because certainly from board to board, there has to be some kind of regulation or precedent set, because that's just, well, 78 homes can have one, but my home cannot. So, like I said, I feel I've wasted enough of your time. This is my home, my front yard. I would like a level front yard. There's no way to turn it back to the shape it was, because we can't pull back the tree and we can't pull back the concrete that was tore out.
Okay. Caroline, do you want to?
Caroline, if I could, we have continued to meet with Mr. Kennedy, and he says that Ruth is not being trustworthy, being truthful. He's not being truthful. He continues to plant plants along that front and bring in dirt. Have you not planted plants along that?
I've planted no dirt. I've planted plants.
Okay, but so you have done work.
They're tropical.
Hey, Al.
I've planted
Okay,
plants.
but I would like the council to be aware, or just to know that when we brought Caroline on, one of the things that the commission asked the council was because there were COAs being approved that weren't being followed. Absolutely, there is retaining walls throughout that district. They were pre the district being formed in 91.
Yes, sir.
But there was also, in addition to that there could be some since then, but they were not approved by the commission. They were they were done without approval of the commission.
Not an approved
They
COA.
were not approved COAs, and the commission requested that we hire a historic preservationist so that we could see that the COAs were being followed. And in this circumstance, it has not been.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Caroline, did you want to?
Can I operate it from up here? See if I can make this quick and just give y'all some pictures. Oh. Stephanie at somehow wants to open up. All right. So one thing that always helps with this.
She needs to speak up.
All right, does that work?
I hear you.
One thing that works normally is pictures. So this was the house before, there was a storm that removed a tree there, but this gives you an idea of that low curb that was there. This was when the first stop work order was issued. So there was no COA of any sort on file at this point. So this was in May of 2021. Then he approached the commission essentially with a COA for what was built. The commission said no. He came back in, reduced it some, but left the tall walls. And the commission said no, that really did not meet the standards, but they were willing to allow him to put that curb sort of back in front. Now this is something that if someone came to the commission now and said, hey, we want this low curb edging out our front yard, the commission would say that doesn't meet standards. But they felt that since his had been damaged by a storm, since he had had to pull it out, that they would give him some grace and allow him to essentially put back in something of that sort.
Did they call out a height?
Yes, they did.
Well-
The COA that was approved was no higher than 12 inches tall and 1 brick deep on the same location as the removed concrete curb. So that's what was approved. And he was in the room when that was approved. Work continued on site, second and third stop work orders. So you can see at this point, dirt is being moved onto site, landscaping is occurring. Returned back to HPC most recently in May of 2022. This COA that HPC saw is essentially identical to the second COA that they looked at last summer. There are a few differences in height, but not substantial. And the commission said, you know, this really is not following the standards that we have. So fences, the use of solid brick along street vantages is not appropriate. If this were in his rear yard, it would have most likely passed by now. And landscaping, garden structures such as retaining walls should be located as to not be readily visible from public vantages. So these are the two standards that the commission is held onto. This is taken about a week ago. So when Mr. Kennedy submitted his May COA to me in the office, and Mr. Stover was with us at the time, Mr. Stover made it very clear that no additional work beyond weeding should continue to occur on that property. And then that's when all the plants were put in, was within the next week. So this is a closer detail of what it looks like currently. And there absolutely are, if I can find them, other walls within the district. I'm fortunate enough that I have a cache of photos from 1991 before design review started. These three houses, these photos are from 1991. They do indeed have retaining walls. They predate the formation of the district. The district was created in part to prevent inappropriate changes from occurring, such as some of the large brick walls that were starting to go in front of houses. Any questions from council for me?
I don't have any. We did have, Mr. Kennedy, did you have anything you wanted to say? If you do, just come to the podium, please.
Again, there's been no other planting in the yard. You know, elephant ears, they grow. They've grown, multiplied, but they've not been any other planting in the yard.
When did you plant those? 'Cause If I
probably about,
remember right, did you say in the HPC meeting that you had planted elephant ears?
yes.
So you just said you didn't, though.
No, I've not planted any extra. She said planting and work in the yard has continued. It has not.
Okay.
I just planted those bulbs to get them in the ground, but there's been no extra dirt, and it's interesting that she shows those pictures. Yes, those are before 90. If you know of Mr. and Ms. Odom that live on Cherry Street, do you think they would have gotten their yard or anything that wasn't approved? They have a raised yard, retaining walls, it's in the book there. DeLoyne also has a raised yard. All that has been done since 1990. And there's a couple that have been done in the past 3 years. But like I said, Historical Board doesn't choose to show those pictures. They are here in the book. The Odom's yard is toward the back. DeLoyne, both his rental properties have raised yards. Those have been done in the past 3 years. And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Chenault, did you want to speak?
I'm Ellis Chenault. I live at 417 Line Street, and Miss Priest stole my thunder.
And if we can do 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, well,
Since
I'll be
it's a
quicker.
public
I'll be
comment.
quicker than
Yeah.
that. Just about everything that's been said tonight by Mr. Kennedy, he's trying to turn you guys into the HPC and wants you to rule on what he can and cannot have. That's already been ruled on by somebody that you have authorized to do that. To me, it's pretty clear. Deny the request, take the previous request that you tabled off the table, deny it, and require him to remove the illegal structure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chenault. All right, so the resolution here is to approve or affirm what the HPC ruled on in their meeting, so a vote of aye would be affirming their vote, just to clarify.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters. Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? I guess I'll go first. I do have some, I understand where you're coming from when you drive through there. There are retaining walls and raised beds and what have you, but what we're talking about here is your yard. And, you came and got a COA, got it an approved COA, and then you built something that was completely different than that and did not meet the requirements that the HPC gave you. But that's really what we're here to talk about is what's in your yard, not everybody else's. I think Alan did a good job of explaining when Caroline came on, there was some of that maybe where COAs were approved and then somebody did something way outside of that. And we don't need that to happen. And that's kind of where I stand on yours. We don't need that to happen. So because of that, I will vote to affirm what the HPC said.
Mr. Kennedy, we talked, I think, a few times since the last council appeal. I told you then the big thing would be to go back to the HPC. You had an original COA approved, but you had started construction prior to that. Then they approved the COA, and then you did something outside of it. And I think for over a year now, we've been trying to get a COA approved, and I've watched all the meetings. I've attended a couple. I told you after the last appeal that my thought was that y'all could find a compromise, and from what I saw, you did not submit anything that had any real changes. I don't know what to do at this point. I will vote to uphold the commission's ruling, just because I was looking for that compromise. I know they've been dealing with this for a year like you have, but it's time this thing moves forward.
All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call. Aye.
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 No.
All right, Resolution 22-121 is approved with a vote of 3-1. And I think there is a further appeal process, correct, that he could go through? And does he need to reach out to
You reach out
to Caroline about
or does.
a further appeal process, which would be through circuit court, I believe. Is that right? Okay. All right. Public hearings, ordinance number 22-4513, approve rezoning request 139222 by Erica Powell for .19 acres more or less to be rezoned from B1 local shopping district to B2 general business district located at 511 19th Avenue Southeast. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022.
Well,
Right.
he presented something to y'all, that we need to have it, you have a copy of it? Well, we need a copy because that's part of,
We have one copy,
just need one.
just to the city clerk. Mr. Kennedy, we just need one copy.
Carolyn's got one.
Do you have one, Caroline, of the presentation?
No, I don't.
All right, go ahead, Lee.
Okay, yes, this rezoning is located at 511 19th Avenue Southeast. The request is to go from B1 to B2. This request was not recommended for approval from the Planning Commission by a vote of 7-1. And once the public hearing starts, if you don't mind, I've got a couple of comments that were emailed, residents that couldn't be here but wanted to have their comment
Okay.
read.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and go ahead and start with your comments.
The first one is from Ms. Barbara Aldridge, 1816 Wadsworth Street Southeast. She is opposed to the rezoning. She does not think the uses allowed in B2 would be good for her neighborhood, and she lives right next to the subject property. She says there are children in the neighborhood that do not need to be near clubs and bars. She also says the neighborhood in general has deteriorated over the years and neighbors don't take care of their properties like they used to. She doesn't want to see the property get rezoned because she thinks it will make a bad situation worse. The next is Kenneth Throneberry, 1811 Wadsworth Street Southeast. Opposed to the rezoning, says the neighborhood has problems with litter and junk and crime already. He doesn't want to see a bar open up on the corner that would make the situation worse. The other is from Scott Throneberry, owner of 1811 Wadsworth Street Southeast, opposed to the rezoning, said the neighborhood does not need that type of business right next to it. And then a final comment from a Debbie Gray, just wanted to state that she was not in favor of the rezoning. And those were the public comments that we received.
Okay, is there anyone else here to speak on this agenda item? All right, seeing no one else here to speak on this, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion?
Yeah, I agree. We've had a lot of different alcohol type things come up. I'm encouraged that we're looking at it. But, when the planning commission votes 7-1 and, looking at I have to agree with them, so I will not be supporting this.
All right, any other discussion? This used to be a restaurant, is that correct? Do you know?
I'm not sure what's
It's been an empty building for
several years,
a while. Okay.
to my knowledge.
And the
yes.
stated use is a
A bar.
bar and grill.
A bar and grill, yes.
Okay. In B2, there's no ratio, 51-49.
Depending on the type of alcohol license that you apply and get approved for, that sets your ratio,
Okay. But it could be a bar.
which would be a majority
And
alcohol.
you have to be 21.
You have to be 21 to enter, I believe that's right, Herman. And there's no percentage set on alcohol versus food sales if you are given a license as a bar.
And Lori goes through that process with the state and ABC and background checks.
And in B2, a bar is a strictly permitted use. So there's no appeal that goes through. If you're given B2, you're
Right.
allowed to have a bar.
Okay. Thanks, Lee. Any other discussion or questions? All right, and this one was denied 7-1.
7-1.
But we are voting to approve it, right?
Yes, sir, it comes to you.
A yes is a vote for approval. Okay. All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
No.
No. No.
All right, ordinance 22-4513 fails with a vote of 3-1. Next, we have ordinance number 22-4514, approve rezoning request 139322 for Aspen Properties to rezone approximately 2 acres from an R2 single-family residential district to an R6 single-family semi-attached residential district, and is located at 331 Austinville Road Southwest. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022.
Yes, this property is located on the corner of Austinville Road and Caradale. The request is to go from a R2 single family to a R6 single family semi-attached or townhome.
All right, this is a public hearing, so we'll open that now. I do have two, I believe, that have signed up to speak. First on the list is Andrea Hoffmeyer-Wilson. Do you want me to go through the drill, or 3 minutes?
I think that I have a few little coins in
All right,
the bank there. No, it's okay. It is can't count time that I have to take a look up.
Here we go.
Be wrong.
We won't start till you start.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, no, wait, start over. Who's doing the timer? Okay, hold on, okay. Let me get organized. Okay, so now we're gonna go. So, so last month, I'm Andrea Hoffmeyer Wilson. I live at 1306 Caradale Street. And I'm here representing One Decatur United Citizens Kaizen. And last month we presented some concerns about the rezoning of this property, and we invited council members to take a drive and see what we had concerns about. There, you have that little handout that I emailed to you today, along with a few other things, including a PDF of the presentation for the idea of a tree protection ordinance. So the two topics I'm going to talk about are the trees and multimodal access. It's not that we're against townhomes here, it's just that we have to resolve some things before we move forward. We really hope that we can preserve some of the mature trees on this lot. As we all know, none of the mature trees were lost. Oh, there's a typo on my PDF, sorry. Lost at 809 Caradale Street. So we would hope that that wouldn't happen, that it just wouldn't go clear cut. And what we have found, I sent to you the ESA publication and pointed you towards the page, bottom of page 4 and top of page 5, where we might not need a tree ordinance, okay? The city of Auburn, they've just folded in the landscaping process, the oversight into their existing zoning, rezoning, and in the planning process. So maybe we could do that. Maybe this could be a straw man of how we could improve that process. So please, we just don't want to have clear cut and then not replaced. The other thing is multimodal access. The sidewalk in front of the existing townhomes is only 36 inches. Actually reduced by the vegetative overgrowth, but it's not ADA compliant because if you continued that 36 inches down, that would be over 200 feet with no passing zone, okay? So what we're requesting is that this developer put in 5-foot sidewalks, which would then be ADA compliant. We're also asking that they put in 5-foot sidewalks on Austinville. In addition, we need to have a safe crosswalk there at Austinville and Caradale because there isn't one right now. And we need to have safe bus stops for children on both streets. Because if you're gonna add all of these townhouses, I'm assuming there's gonna be
school-age children. So those were my points,
Okay.
and the timer did not even go off. I just want to point out, though, that
Close.
when close but no cigar. I do want to point out that when one of us is talking, we're here on behalf of a lot of other people. We went door to door all throughout Autumnwood, and they have these concerns more along the lines of what Rob's going to share about the driving situation.
Okay. All right, thanks, Andrea. Next is Rob Wilson.
Rob Wilson, 1306 Carradale Street. Just to follow up, I saw you guys thinking about it. The sidewalk on Carradale in front of the R6 now is 36 inches. And ADA is 5 unless you get 4, and then you gotta have a passing lane, a roundabout in there somewhere so you can go around each other. We're just suggesting that ADA is really necessary, because we see people all the time in wheelchairs, even blind people with sticks, trying to walk. And I know that y'all are doing what you can as we develop new stuff, and that's what we've been told, so we're hitting it on this project, especially because it's in our backyard. Specifically, one of the things that the residents had questions about or concerns about is the traffic right there at Austinville and Carradale. It's a wacky intersection anyway. If you look on the thing that we gave you, I'll start in the middle. One of the problems you've got with the alley there now, since there's no signage saying which way, effectively, it's a two-way alley. If you go out the alley to exit on Carradale Street, there's a fence there that's on private property. It's a privacy fence. I'm sure it's fine. There's also a pine tree. When you're trying to turn out, you've got to virtually pull your car out in Carradale Street to be able to see what's coming east on Carradale Street at that point. Quite often, people try to turn into that alley from Carradale. Most people turn in from Austinville. That leads us to the next one. If you're coming down Austinville, you have a decision to make. If you're going, I guess at that point, you'd be going north on Austinville, trying to turn on Carradale Street, make a left-hand turn. That's tough. Then you got to turn in the alley going the wrong way, or you go on down Carradale, on down Austinville, past Carradale, and you're turning across traffic trying to get in. By the way, there's also bus stops, right? The kids get off the buses right there, and grandma's waiting on the kids every day. Just hold their breath, because kids are trying to run across Austinville Road to get back in there to the subdivision. So we're just asking for attention to be paid. How can we calm this traffic? It's already a mess. So we're gonna add the one on Carradale Commons that we've already passed, which we don't see anything happening on, by the way, just weeds and a kind of a moonscape over there. So you've got that one plus the one on the corner here. We're adding traffic. All we're saying is, would you guys please look at what we can do about that? Crosswalks are needed. This also, because of the one now, you've got this one, and by the way, you've got a couple of issues that all go into traffic calming. Bradley Street now that runs into Carradale cuts Carradale back down to where Austinville makes the turn, and it comes in, and that's an extremely tight little turn. Just saying, that's something that needs to be looked at. And your Spring Avenue exit from Carradale Commons is totally impossible. I mean, that one's like 40 inches to try to get a car out of there, much less two. Thank y'all for thinking.
Thanks, Rob. Anyone else speak on this item? All right, seeing no one else here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. How many units, do you know, have been discussed?
They were working on the plat. It's like 9 or 10, okay. I believe. But yes, 9 or 10 is about what they would be able to fit in there.
I don't have any problem with the rezoning. I do think some of the, it fits. It's literally between two other town R6 developments. I think some of the issues that arrays are things we always should be looking at a new, adding people to a certain spot when you're right there on an intersection. But I know that you guys in planning and engineering are doing that. But I think those are things we always want to think about, so.
And if I may, just,
Yeah,
for
sure.
point of clarity, as these go in, before they're issued a certificate of occupancy, the sidewalk has to be installed. Current standard for the city is 4 feet wide, so these will have a 4 foot wide sidewalk.
Okay.
City standard, ADA?
City standard by our adopted subdivision regulations is 4 feet.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Lee. Any other questions or comments?
So
I did,
go ahead.
I did drive over there, and I think I drove every which way I possibly could. And I don't disagree. The hardest to me was coming out of the alley to turn onto Austinville if people were coming out that way. But I don't think the issue was traffic, and I tried to go up multiple times. There is a fence that runs down Austinville, and I don't know if it may be on the right of way, I can't tell, but seeing around that fence was tough to me. So I don't disagree that we can look at this stuff, but I definitely support the rezoning.
So to add to what they said, and thank y'all, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, for coming up and talking and speaking out for the area that you care about. And as I've said 100 times, I care about this area. This is where I grew up, and I love it there. That intersection where you're coming out onto Courtyard there is extremely dangerous. I've almost been hit plenty of times. I've got a friend that lives in one of the townhomes behind the alleyway. He has one of the little awnings is his, and so whenever we go over there, we park back there sometimes because other people park up front. And leaving there, we'll go out to Cardale and we'll try to exit. And I can't tell you the countless amount of times that I've almost been hit leaving there. Because don't get me wrong, I'm sure everybody here has got a little bit of a lead foot, and we all like to press the gas a little bit. And I'm one that does. And everybody that comes off and takes that little right turn there and goes on to Cardale always stomps it and tries to go on the straightaway and get going. So I think it's something that does need to be looked at. There's nothing that we can do to prevent the property owner, I guess, right next door there that has the fence. There's nothing we can really do about that. But even turning left, I mean not turning left, excuse me, turning right. Even when you're turning right, it's still dangerous. It's almost impossible to turn left if you're coming out of there. That's personal opinion here, but and then also the sidewalk issue is something that I feel like it would be nice to be able to look at. Changing the 4 feet to a 5 feet thing. I think that if 5 feet is ADA compliant, it's something that we really need to consider and really need to look at, because I was extremely unaware until about 3 weeks ago that we have got a massive population of disabled individuals within the city. And a lot of them are wheelchair mobility. They can't get around very well like we can, and we're very grateful to be able to walk on both legs. Some people cannot. So I think that's something that we really need to consider. And of course, there's a lot of areas that don't have sidewalks. There's a lot of patchy areas. There's nothing we can really do about that, but we can try to create, where people can cross across the street properly and things like that. I think that does need to be looked at. It needs to be as soon as possible.
And I agree about the crosswalks. That's something Carl and I talked about last week. Once Austinville got repaved, we lost our crosswalks. So we need to get those back as soon as we can. But along with everything else in the world, there's apparently a crosswalk paint shortage. So as soon as we get some of that, hopefully we can get some crosswalks back there, along with tying some other things in. But no, I agree with you 100% about the crosswalks.
And I'll not really on this topic, on the tree ordinance issue, I'm glad you switched to Auburn, because I did look at Gulf Shores, and really Gulf Shores and Decatur are very different in a lot of ways. There's really no trees in Gulf Shores. We have a lot of trees, but I know actually when you sent the email today, I did reach out to the city manager in Auburn to kind of understand how they were doing tree preservation and see how it would apply. I don't know. We've probably differed on the tree ordinance. I think we've had discussions on that, but I do want to see how they operate. They are similar outside of the whole university town to Decatur. So, yeah, well, not me, but you just lost a minute. All right, any other discussion? All right, I've got a motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Ordinance 224514 is approved 4-0. Next, have ordinance 224515, approved rezoning request 139422 for Wind Chase Townhomes to rezone approximately .46 acres more or less from an R6 single-family semi-attached residential district to an R5 single-family patio home, zero lot line residential district, and is located north of 2847 Hempstead Avenue Southwest. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022.
Yes, this property is on Hempstead Avenue, and the request has come to rezone from R6 townhomes to R50, our zero lot line patio home district. This rezoning would allow them to plat a further 3 townhomes to match the existing R50 townhomes to the immediate north of this property.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on this matter, you can speak now. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? And this is tennis courts that in the neighborhood did not, it kind of came from the neighborhood.
It came from the, yes, this property is being sold by the neighborhood association
That's
to
right.
the developer for the building of these 3
Okay.
homes.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
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 Ordinance 224515 is approved 4-0. Next is ordinance number 224516, approved rezoning request 139522 for Jason Parker's property containing 3.04 acres more or less from a B1 local shopping district and R1 single-family residential district to a B2 general business district and is located at 3112 Highway 31 South. Public hearing was set May 2nd, 2022.
Yes, this property is located on Highway 31 South, close to the Ford dealership. The request has come, it was kind of a quirk of our zoning map. Old lot lines moving around left this property with 2 zonings, and to expand his business was going to require him to encroach into the part that was zoned residential, and so because of that, the rezoning was required to allow for this expansion of his existing business on the property.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on this, you can speak now. Seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Ordinance 224516 is approved 4-0. Next, we'll move to resolutions. Resolution number 22123, approve the Blue Cross Blue Shield Fitness Court.
Yes, this is the fitness court that we've been working on in community development and Parks and Rec. This would allow us to put the fitness court at Wilson Morgan there in front of the small dog park, with funds for the match coming from 3M Sullivan.
Okay, I did have one signed up for public comment on this. Andrea.
All right. Andrea Hoffmeyer Wilson, 1306
You're good.
Carroll Street. Okay, so I just want to follow up on the discussion that we had last time about communications to citizens about this, because this is really awesome that we're getting this Blue Cross Blue Shield fitness court. We're still seeing some confusion on social media, so I think that we have a great opportunity to put signage out about what's going on. I'm still seeing some posts about, is it at Austinville? What's going on in Austinville Park? So I'd like to follow up on the thought that we should put a sign up at Austinville Park and explain what's going on. The mayor said last time, he acknowledged that this is a problem actually nationwide for municipalities. But if we could get a sign out there, people are going out there, they don't know what's going on with that park, and maybe even a little side sign that talks about where the Blue Cross Blue Shield fitness court is going to be. So just an idea that maybe to do that. because we're One Duck United Citizens Kaizen. We're here to work with you guys. I sent in the email that we're not intending to be contentious, but we want to bring ideas to the table of what we're hearing. Hunter shared with us in the last meeting, I think it was, or one of them, that the city of Florence actually came up to him, somebody in a meeting, and they said that they wished that they had citizens that were coming and discussing issues and coming to the podium. We're One Decatur United Citizens Kaizen. We don't suggest that they become Florence United Citizens Kaizen.
Oh, hey, their logo was close to that.
I was waiting on a logo comment.
Saying,
They got
I'm here all
citizen input
week.
on that.
So that's all signs. What? Signs.
Carlton knows a
Hey,
thing or two
you-
about those.
Yeah, I like you a lot, Andrea.
Yeah. How many seconds do I have on the clock?
Man, come on.
Well, he,
There was that minute you took.
he did
away
take a
from
minute
her.
from you,
Sure
yeah.
took a minute.
No, I didn't, just for the record.
But no, I think, with the whole communication thing, I know we try. We try a lot. Emmy's posting a lot. We're lucky enough to have a local newspaper here that covers what we do. And I know we try to get as much out on social media as we can. I post a lot, Hunter posts a lot. A lot of the time, that's why it's frustrating. It's almost like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But it's not for lack of trying, and I appreciate you, again, saying, okay, well, what is going on? Because a lot of the times, some of the stuff I read on social media is nuts. Because they're not, and I think that's why some of us try to go through these things and explain where the decisions come from, how they happen. But communication is something I'm proud that I think we're working on just as a city in general now that hasn't been happening, and we're trying. Just give us a little bit of time. We're trying.
Yeah, I would echo everything Carlton said about communication. I think Emmy's role, we didn't have that 2 years ago. It's been about 2 years, I think. And she's trying to get things out on the website, social media. I think council members are trying to do that. Even individual departments have done that the last couple of weeks. I know we had a lot of questions about large item pickup, and we started to distribute that information where those trucks were on social media and other ways. But I don't disagree when there's a project that is exciting for the community. We just don't have we don't have exactly what there's going to be at Austinville yet. So I think when we get that kind of conception, and there's a conceptual drawing and rendering, putting that out there, and the same for any other park that we're building or something new. And we want to do that, like the mayor said last time. So I don't have a motion on this.
So moved.
Yep. Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22-123 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-124, approve the Princess Theater ADA improvements, approve change number 1, number 2, and number 3. This is the best thing on here for a specific reason.
These are actually a net deduct from our contract.
Exactly.
So,
Saving money.
yeah, we would respectfully request you to approve these
So
unless you second.
Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 All right, Resolution 22-124 is approved with a vote of 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-125, approved 2021-2022 CAPER Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report to the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah, this is just a report, reporting to HUD what our annual performance, then an evaluation report is to them for our 21-22 plan. So we're just requesting that you approve this submission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22-125 is approved with a vote of 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-126, approve vendor price increase for new engine and fire truck.
Council, Tracy Thornton, Fire Chief, Decatur.
This is a price increase that the vendor had from the time we got the initial quote until council approved the purchase of the fire truck.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? I did not support it when we voted on it the first time, but I'm going to abstain. It was obviously the will of the council to buy the fire truck, and I don't want to get in the way of that. And I know Mr. Jackson supported it. He's not here, so I'll abstain from the vote. Any other discussion? Roll call. Abstain.
Aye.
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 Resolution 22-126 is approved with a vote of 3-0 and 1 abstention. Next is Resolution 22-132, authorized expenditures of $10,883,767 from American Rescue Plan, state and fiscal recovery funds.
Good evening, Council. A few weeks ago, you all had approved the standard allowance to replace lost revenues on the ARPA money to spend on government services. And tonight, this resolution will create more of a detailed budget for the grant and project plans going forward. So the $10 million standard allowance to replace lost revenues, that $10 million is split among 3 capital projects: $3.3 million for the widening of Motus Road, $3.7 million for Highway 67 and Upper River intersection realignment, $3 million for Upper River Road and Indian Hills intersection realignment. The remaining $883,767 to be divided between Mental Health Center of North Alabama for the purpose of expanding behavioral health services to the city's residents. I believe that's $600,000. And I believe they had announced that they were planning to construct an inpatient facility with money received from the city and the county.
And state.
And also $283,767 for Pines Park upgrades under the Treasury presumption that households and communities that were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic would be able to allow projects that would include assistance and investments in eligible households and neighborhoods promoting improved health outcomes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. I do have 2 signed up for public input. First, Joe Amra Dillingham first.
I'm Joanne Dillingham, 3130 Hickory Hill Road, Southeast. The 2 points I'd like to talk to in the resolution 22-132 are B and C, specific to Upper River Road and Highway 67 and Upper River Road and Indian Hills intersection. I am so glad that we are moving forward. I'm glad we're getting the money for this. Yay, go Decatur. Good stuff. My concern is on Highway 67 Upper River Road. When you get down to the nitty-gritty of it all, will there be turn lanes in there? Or is this strictly, here's our intersection? Because what all of us who live in that area are already seeing, if somebody comes off of 67, they make a left turn off of 67, and someone is stopped making a left turn going up into Indian Hills, they're already pulling into the little furniture-y place that's there. And there have been so many doggone near misses already that if they're not turn lanes or something like that, it's not an if but a when. Coming back down from Upper River Road going towards 67, if you're trying to make a turn into Indian Hills, you have the same thing. What I'm seeing, I have witnessed people, you make your right turn, and people are coming around going into that. So please consider having turn lanes and things like that brought in there. And it's basically the same thing in Indian River roads. We moved here from Dallas, Texas, and the standard joke in Dallas was if TDOT didn't put in turn lanes, Texans in their pick-em-up trucks were going to off-road and make turn lanes. And that's, I think it's kind of human nature. You know, people are gonna jink and jive. Unfortunately, someone is gonna get hurt. If, going forward, the property there that Mr. Villarreal wants to build onto, his parking lot is what, some 400 cars. That's a bunch of cars that are gonna be added to this particular piece of road. This is not Priceville, I understand that totally, but they are building, what, a 700 and some unit down there. This is gonna be a major road. And if we're not proactive, if we do not start planning with turn lanes and such as that, it worries me, it really does. Our traffic, Indian Hills and then down Hickory Hills where I live, already in the 9 years we've been here, it has increased markedly. And they are tearing down the roads. I know we've had a number of accidents just in the last month on 67 at these different intersections. Okay. Thank you for listening to me. Can I give a kudo real quickly? I met with Mr. Terry and his staff. They were awesome. They are excellent educators, so very pleasant. Thank you all for your time.
You always get extra time for kudos.
Yeah.
Then I'll make a point of giving more and more
But
kudos.
thank you for sharing that. I know these guys take a lot of heat most of the time on this stuff, and they do a good job. So appreciate that. And Andrea is our other speaker. I will. I think, and Carl, and maybe Carlton knows, kind of. We don't have an approved design yet for those intersections. So we'll continue to have those come. This resolution is just, we're sitting aside. But I'm glad you brought those up.
We've kind of started, and Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've started the engineering and design for both of them. Yes. So we just gotta wait and see what they come up with.
Yeah, but the money is being allocated.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Right. So I will say again, what Joe said, yay, we're really glad that this money is getting allocated. And in the engineering and design process, one thing that we would really suggest is that we do some stakeholder engagement and really get an understanding from the people who live there and commute around there and everything, what they're experiencing. I think that you could have engineers who go out to the site and they are not there at the right time. So if we could pull together, I know that Hunter's been talking about having some community meetings and things like that, but really focus, because this is a big pot of money that's being spent on this. And so a lot of times you think, well, if you're spending $6,700,000, it's gonna turn out right. But that is not always true. So I would just really encourage there to be some stakeholder engagement on this, find out what the needs are. Joe spoke to the vehicular needs, and you know what I'm going to mention? Multimodal access. So we really just do need to make sure that when we're planning these things that we are considering the pedestrian access, that we consider bikes, especially if we're going to have apartments going back in there, we're going to have more and more cyclists. And so we just want to make sure that we plan ahead and we don't have to retrofit. But yay and kudos to everybody. Do I get more seconds back if I did my kudos? I did my kudos before the timer went off. So stakeholder
I've
engagement.
got it in my head what your time is.
Stakeholder engagement, signs, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I would just say I'm proud of the way the money's being spent. We're spending it on infrastructure. When the state was talking about their use of these funds, you heard Senator Orr and others talk about you didn't want to spend these funds on things that would create more spending down the road. It's kind of one-time projects, and with the growth we're seeing, I'm glad we're investing these funds into infrastructure, and then you have mental health in a park in District 1 as well. So I think I'm proud of the way we if approved the direction we're going with these monies. So, and these are not set in stone, but it's giving just kind of a direction of where we're going. We know that even one of the projects on there likely will cost more than we have here. So All right, any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
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 Resolution 22-132 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22-127, approved P-Wright McAnally Modus Road Improvements Proposal, Lexington Avenue to Austin High School.
Yes, Mayor, Council, this is to employ P. Wright McAnally to start the design work for the Modus Road widening that y'all asked me to do due to the growth out in that area.
Going ahead and getting into pot number 8. I like it. So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike, and I do have one signed up for public comment, Ms. Wilson.
They can't hear you.
Yeah, well, the cameras can't.
All the duckies out there.
Okay, yes, the quackers. All those one duckers. So I know that this was actually part of the previous resolution because it's, I think it's the,
That's
letter
right.
A in it, but I wanted to address this separately because this is further down the path, with the P-Wright McNally, stuff being laid out. So with this, this gets back to what Rob talked about in the last meeting. There is a bike path now on Modus Road, and it is actually at least 5 feet wide. So when this road widening is done, and I saw in the attachment that they actually said including the pedestrian something, so they're planning for that. But if they could make sure, and it doesn't say anything in it in the letter, if you could stipulate to them that we want that bike path, pedestrian path combo continued along down in the widening. So that's all I had for that.
I think it is included. It is there, okay. But yeah, we agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we just want it to be the not 4 feet, but the 5 feet. And you could plant a tree too, and that would be really happy.
Well, I hope that you read the article with the developer that I think Bang did, or somebody at the Daily, and they have some pretty good plans for how they're landscaping and leaving a big section of green space on the front there for the development. Yeah.
And everything, and that's why we were all in favor. We thought that was great. Yeah.
Carl.
Yeah,
Did you have a comment?
the existing paved path out there is 8 feet wide, and we would, if we do multi-use path, I think it's required to be 8 feet.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22-127 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-128, approve amendment to CDG Engineering Deerfoot Estate Drainage Design.
Yeah, this is on, I guess, the Johnson property downstream end of this particular project. The current ditch cuts kind of right through the middle of their property, and they asked that we try to redesign it around the outer edge for potential future development on that property. And so this is money to redesign that ditch along there, and hopes to also get the easement from them a lot simpler.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-128 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22-129, award bid number 22019 for Ready Mix Concrete to Ready Mix USA, being the sole respondent.
Yes, Council, this is a standing bid that required a rebid. It ran its course, and we have one response on it.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-129 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22-130, award bid number 22024 for cell A and cell 16 subgrade preparation to T&K Construction in the amount of $2,030,213.80.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-130 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-131, award bid number 22025 for sand and fine aggregates to Alliance Sand, being the sole respondent.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-131 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-133, approve Algo video sharing agreement.
Well, basically, that's AlDOT, there's cameras all over the state of Alabama. We will be part of that, network along US 31. It's kind of intriguing if you go to the out. You can see what's happening, on our interstates and a lot of our busy expressways.
So
This
moved.
will just be part of that system.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-133 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-134, approved purchase of a Kubota tractor for Parks and Rec.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Can you just go,
Yes.
it was replacing, just quickly.
I was gonna hold out and see if we could do that again.
I'm hungry.
This
It's a change to what was budgeted, so.
Right, this is this money was budgeted for another piece of equipment. We had a John Deere go down that was in service, was being used, it broke, it's not fixable, and this is gonna go to replace that. We do appreciate it.
I do too, but it changed the budget item. It's
Right,
it's
there
an
we go.
explanation. All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-134 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22-135, approve the mayor to accept an agreement with Virtual Rail Fan for the installation and streaming of webcams at the train depot.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
And CVB is paying for this,
CVP is paying for the installation, the only thing the city pays is the monthly fee
for the live feed.
right.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-135 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22-136, approve the replacement of the primary air handler unit at City Hall.
You didn't get lucky on that one.
Okay, this is the one that Kurt talked a little bit about last time. This air handler is one of the ones here at City Hall. It's gonna work for the next while. They're gonna help us keep it working. The problem is on several floors, we have some humidity problems. We're still dealing with some of that. And one of the things that I did bring up last time is we'll try to put the rest of it in upcoming capital budgets. And that way we have an idea from year to year, because they're gonna, if this one went down, they're all the same age. So
They're
it's
all
gonna
about to start going
right.
down. Okay, cool. So there is a plan to get them
Right.
on some type of.
And you'll see it in the
replacement cycle.
capital budget coming up.
Good.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. My only discussion is Judge Breland just missed the vote on the train deal.
Just don't look back.
It passed. All right, any other discussion?
He has been the one, he's done a great, I can't tell you how much he's meant for that.
All right, any other discussion?
Is that coming out of Heritage?
Yes.
Yeah. it is.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-136 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-137, approve the purchase of temporary fencing for parks and recreation.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22-137 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-138, declare sole source supplier for the purchase of police vehicles.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters.
Captain Silvestri, will you still explain why we're going to sole source, please?
There are no cars available, and you can't order anything right now. And after a lengthy search, I finally found some vehicles in Texas through a company that builds police cars. And they're able to fulfill our needs to get us some police vehicles because we have a bunch of police cars that are down right now.
And is it 8?
It's 8.
8, okay. All right, any other discussion? Thanks for finding these. I know they were good.
Good job.
All right, roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22-138 is approved 4-0. Resolution 22-139, approve reinstating old engine number 5 to an active status from a surplus status.
So moved.
Motion, what is it called? Motion by Mr. Pepper,
Second.
second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Explain that just briefly.
It's back several months ago, it got put into a surplus status. We still have it. And 2 of our mainline engines are down for repair. And this will be a reserve truck that we'll have to be able to use if something happens to another one of our engines.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call? Oh, sorry.
Good, we're trying to have,
Yeah.
just wait till she goes.
Roll call, please. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-139 is approved 4-0. Next is Resolution 22-140, accept the Community Foundation of Greater Decatur $180,000 donation for equipment improvements for an outdoor education area at Chestnut Grove Elementary School.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. And my only discussion is thank you to Representative Collins for securing this money for us. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Resolution 22-140 is approved 4-0. Next we have ordinances first reading. Ordinance number 22-4519, approve amendment to the Code of Decatur, Alabama, Article 11, Chapter 7, Property Maintenance Code.
I'm just here if we got any questions.
Will you touch on what, because you asked me last week, you said I looked kind of dumbfounded, and I did. Will you explain again what this one specifically is?
I thought I was nicer than that, Carlton, but anyway.
Well, no. Hey, I mean, you were right. 'Cause
You didn't say
there,
it's dumb.
I read the packet, and you were up there, and it was a long day last week.
When the property maintenance code, when this version was originally adopted, the requirement for the public restroom stuff was left out. The building code requires it, and so it's there when a building's constructed on a CO. When they go back afterwards and they do CO inspections, say on new stuff, but there's the mechanism is not in place to make sure that those things continue to be there for the years between some of these inspections. And we have found out that that's really needed badly.
All right, this is a first reading, so
I'm gonna make a motion for immediate consideration.
that's what I thought was coming. All right, we have a motion for immediate consideration by Mr. Pepper. Second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Herman, is this, you think?
No, it's
Mine.
fine. This one and the next one are fine if you want to do
Okay.
immediate consideration.
All right, it does have to be unanimous. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Immediate consideration is passed with a vote of 4-0.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr.
Second.
McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Ordinance 224519 is approved 4-0. Next, we have ordinance number 224520, approve amendment to the Code of Decatur, Alabama, Article 1, Chapter 14, Section 14-4, paperless filing and payment system.
This is just going to streamline the process for our online taxes, makes it cleaner, neater for auditors.
Motion for immediate consideration.
We have motion by Mr. Pepper for immediate consideration and a second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Any issue there, Herman? Okay. All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Ordinance immediate consideration is approved 4-0.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 All right, ordinance 224520 is approved 4-0. Next, we have boards and committees. The first is a mayoral appointment, does not require a vote. Mayoral appointment of Jerry Baker to the Housing Authority Board, term expiring August 5th, 2023.
Yeah, the mayor just he's obviously not here. He wanted to pass on that he's very happy that Mr. Baker's doing the service. He thinks he will make a very good board member. He wanted me to share that. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on that? All right, next is reappoint Brian Cook, the second term on DDRA board, term expiring June 21st, 2028.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? This will be a second term. Roll call. Aye.
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 The reappointment of Brian Cook to the DDRA board is approved with a vote of 4-0. The next council work session will be held on June 13th, 2022 at 5 p.m. The next regular council meeting will be held on June 20th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Anything else from department directors? All right, anything else from council? All right, we are dismissed. Thanks.